But a billionaire is the wealth is so astronomical. It's more than any one person can ever spend.
People can always better themselves.
Absolutely.
If they upskill themselves. I think you need to get smarter and put that with work harder.
Does that mean everyone can be rich?
I think anyone can have more if they want more.
Members of the jury, you must try to reach a unanimous decision on the following. Should billionaires exist? We have 20 minutes until the first vote. James, you're probably closest to being a billionaire out of all of us. Should they exist?
I absolutely do believe they should exist. All of the good things we have in life, whether it's transport, medicine, communications, those things have been created by wealthy individuals that have put their own risk capital and said, in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, we shall create this thing, which governments unfortunately can't do.
I think there's a difference, though, between someone who's really quite rich in terms of, might being a multi-millionaire and then being a billionaire. It's very hard to conceptualize that amount of money. And I mean, I think that, this isn't to target any particular individual, but I do think we need to be questioning an economic model that allows for billionaires to exist. An analogy might be that if you had a colony of monkeys and you had just this monkey that was just hoarding all of the bananas and sitting on it whilst all the other monkeys were dying, at some point you'd probably go, guys, I think there's something wrong with this monkey, but instead in this culture we kind of reward that and we kind of go, oh, he's a great innovator, and maybe some of these rotten bananas will sort of eventually trickle down to the other monkeys. And it seems like just a bit of a sort of a psychotic way to run a society, in all honesty, and it's not serving the interests of most ordinary people.
What if that monkey is providing a facility whereby the other monkeys are able to travel to another island to get more bananas to bring onto the island?
Couldn't we as a society sort of agree to undertake those things collectively, rather than one individual having such a disproportionate amount of influence?
You need to think it from a different perspective. Billionaires have created thousands of job opportunities for so many different individuals, donated millions to public health campaigns. And instead of punishing people from the top, we need to raise the bottom. So providing better wages, job opportunities for younger people, and schools need to kind of harvest young talent to create better future leaders and CEOs. So instead of punishing successful, rich people, we need to encourage more people to become like that, really.
I think that there's an even more pressing point here, which is that we are entering a state of political crisis, right? During which the interests of individuals who are vying for controlling interests, not only in their own company, but in democratic affairs, is causing the unnecessary intervention of people who wouldn't necessarily otherwise have so much skin in the game. So for example, we have Elon Musk buying Twitter, entering the White House, J.K. Rowling in the UK helping to pass legislation. Whether or not you agree or disagree is completely irrelevant, right? It's about whether or not you want more or less accountability checks on the decisions made that affect you, which is why I think that we should have less influence of people with such extreme capacity to do harm to democratic accountability mechanism.
I think capitalism isn't necessarily an evil. I'm not saying capitalism is terrible, but because we do need people who do jobs and produce workers, and for instance, take a simple thing like the water system. We need water, so you need people like entrepreneurs and organizations to move in and spend money on pipes and employ people. We need people to be able to see their work ethic and excel. That is good capitalism. Where it fails is when we get to billionaires, their influence over society to, for instance, like Elon Musk, to get into the White House and say, I think we should do this and this and this. You're giving so much power to a very small amount of people, which gives them an unnatural influence over all people. And I think when we live in democracy and in a place where we're looking to enable everyone to prosper, actually giving people such power over because of money, I think is problematic.
It's not because of that, Chris. It's because of evidence of their past achievements, of actually saying. Lots of people say they're going to do things based on theory, but those people have done stuff, and this fact that they've done it, they've got through political people in terms of everyone's got a different view, a different opinion, nothing gets done. And everything that we have as human beings, that whether it's electric cars, which is good for climate change, there's no way governments would have got that over the line.
Why?
Because no one can get a decision done. That's why. Well, the evidence shows you that, Tilly, doesn't it?
I mean,
In the last, if you think we had 380,000 civil servants at the end of the Cameron government, we've now got 540,000 civil servants. Do you feel like we have a better, efficient running government? And that's why people feel disingenuous. We pay more tax than ever before, and we haven't really moved forward. We're getting a smaller economy that's not growing at the level, and that's why risk capital, these billionaires, put their money and their innovation and their brain into things to create things to move us forward faster.
I mean, I think what you're describing to me is ways in which, sure, maybe there's more bureaucracy in government, but there's also more accountability checks. So what you're telling me is things can be done faster by billionaires because it's one person who has a lot of power in society who can do a lot of things. Whether that's good or bad is not relevant to me anyway.
It's never one person.
Bill Gates has done a lot of good, right? He's injected loads of kids with malaria vaccines. I'm not against injecting kids with malaria vaccines just because he's Bill Gates, right? And I'm this crazy anti-capitalist.
He wouldn't have done that on his own. He would have had to have been an individual that had people to want to go and work for him to make all those things happen.
But it also does mean that he has undue control over like WHO policy, just one person. And it's like, whether he's a nice guy or not is kind of irrelevant. It's just whether one, as Tilly said, is whether one unaccountable person should have control over World Health policy. I don't think that that's that good an idea, to be honest.
I don't think Bill Gates has control over World Health policy.
He has an undue influence, very large.
The World
influence.
Health policy is run by a team, a whole organisation, not just one person. That one person
but he has
might
a huge
provide,
amount of influence in the
might
WHO.
provide influence
What's wrong
and
with
money,
him
but
having
it's
a
a
huge
team
influence?
Because he has no
decision,
expertise in global health.
We don't know that.
That's why,
I'm not
he's
saying
great
that
at
I'm the
software,
biggest,
but,
I'm not saying I'm the biggest Bill Gates fans, but he has achieved more than most people.
For sure, yeah, no
And
disagreement.
therefore, people will
It's just
listen
whether
to him.
we collectively think that one person, like regardless of who they are, I don't think I should have undue influence over global health policy. I don't think any of us should.
You can have a social media influencer who isn't a billionaire, who has
Huge influence.
massive influence on people and can steer them politically in one direction or another with a 30-second reel that they put out, but they're not rich.
But if they're a billionaire, they can get that reach further,
I don't
Like
see
if
what
you own
difference
most
the
of the
money
media,
made.
so
Yeah.
What you're
5
saying is-
billionaires own 80%
No,
of
I know
UK
what you
media.
mean.
Is
What
that
I
a
hear
good
is
thing?
a billion is an arbitrary cap. Why not cap something at 100 million? Why are we using a billion as some kind of metric that decides whether or not someone should have undue influence or decides whether or not that crosses into the boundaries of
That
something
would
that's
be like
unacceptable?
somebody coming to you and saying, okay, you now have a salary of 50 grand. We've decided you can only earn 30, so we're going to take
tax.
20 grand off you. It's all relevant, isn't
Also,
it? And
but
that
you
would
could
be
say-
like,
we
that's
could
not fair.
redesign our economic model so in a completely different way, like this idea that things have to remain exactly as they are is sort of, I don't know, I think things can change.
We've become a communist state?
I
Is
know.
that-
Not necessarily.
I promise you this, if you took all the money from all the people in the world, took all the money from all the richest people in the world and divided it equally, it wouldn't take long to go back to the original pocket.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Because
Why is that?
It is because it is the way of people.
Why?
Because time has told us that's the
That's
way.
not true.
The way I think to the way you think would be different. I want to work 7 days a week. I'm a workaholic. I want to work in the evening. I don't want to go on holiday. I want to create things. I want to borrow millions of pounds, put personal guarantees, put my house on the line. I want to employ lots of people. Other people go, do you know what? I just want to have a nice time and spend time with my family,
But
go
no one
on
wants to be
holidays.
in poverty. And I think also...
No,
that-
I'm not talking about being in poverty,
Sure.
but those people that take huge risk do get the rewards.
I would ask you, do you think that I have never taken out a £5 million loan because I don't want to?
I can't answer that question because I don't know you enough, but I'm saying that entrepreneurial people, business owners, the way they are is so different to most people. They have isms. They are, 35% of self-made millionaires in the UK are dyslexic. Why is that? They find different ways to navigate storms, and therefore they end up because they're doing that, they risk more, they get rewarded more, and then they create stuff, and then they reinvest it and grow and grow and grow and do more and more, and then they get more and more.
There's a difference between sort of a multimillionaire and sort of those who are kind of, creating jobs and reinvesting. But a billionaire is the wealth is so astronomical. It's more than
James,
any one person can ever spend, can ever do.
I've met lots of billionaires and lots of millionaires. They don't have the money in the bank. It is paper money. Yeah. They might say their company is worth 100 million. They might have no money in the bank. I know people that are so wealthy. They've put all of their money, all of their stuff out to work to create more stuff. And they're scrambling around for £1,000 to meet payroll, or they're stressed out how they're going to pay their people, how they're going to pay HMRC. These people take on so much stress that most people just wouldn't do it. Now, I appreciate other people in society have huge amounts of stress as well, but I'm just sort of sticking up for those risk capital creators, and you absolutely need them in your economy because most people won't take that risk to create stuff.
My concern is that we're in a system of capitalism that works because, as you were saying, people risk and they push and they take, they put their money on the line.
Bring people with them.
Yeah, and it can do, but
Chris,
the issue that I think is the problem is, if we have this ever-increasing disparity of wealth, then there'll be an ever-increasing proportion of people who are disillusioned by the system in place. And that can lead to a kind of decay in society and eventually civil kind of war. Not to be like too dramatic, but if we're having such a disparity of wealth, and you're seeing it growing and growing and growing in economies like America, where you have the uber rich, and you're having an ever-increasing proportion of society that are in abject poverty. And if that increases, we'll end up, I think, with a kind of, in a sense, a mass of people going, actually, why are we taking this? This is not fair. We are putting effort in. We're working in jobs that cost us. We're nurses or factory owners, and we are not seeing the level of income that we should be seeing.
I'd say if you work hard and you personally develop yourself and upskill yourself, you can have more.
Why are you not a billionaire?
I mean, that's not true. That's the myth that
It's
we're told, but there's no realistic way for an ordinary person to become a billionaire. Like, it's a matter of like...
James, let me just say, James,
maybe a multimillionaire.
People can always better themselves.
Absolutely.
If they upskill themselves. I think you need to get smarter and put that with work harding, and you can do some great stuff.
Can I just interject and say, I mean, firstly, I look forward to your next $1 billion venture insofar as you can always better yourself, right? But let's just take a guess. Maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher. Let's say your net worth is £5 million. Elon Musk is almost 100,000 times richer than you. What we're arguing in this debate is not whether or not people should be wealthy. It's whether or not people should have such a degree of skin in the game that someone's like compounding interest alone generates enough wealth for them not only to have such controlling interest in their own company, but also in the affairs of democracy. I would say that it puts us in a state of political emergency insofar as that is true.
I think most people can decide. We're lucky in this country and in the Western world. I don't like Elon Musk, or I like Elon Musk. Does he really affect your life day to day, Tilly?
I mean, he owns Twitter.
But does that affect you?
I
You
mean,
don't like
it
Twitter,
affects,
go on Instagram.
well, digital
You don't like
radicalisation
He's
Instagram.
affects
affecting
me every
US
day.
policy, which
Yes.
affects all of us.
Don't go on it then.
Digital radicalisation affects me every day because
Don't
we
go
have
on
an
it.
increase in violence against women, we have an increase in misogynistic attitudes, and I'm a woman. Insofar as Elon Musk owns Twitter and pushes out more far-right content, that means that more young boys are like radicalised.
But maybe
into
that's just
these,
what
like,
you're
views.
choosing to focus
And also,
on.
mean,
those
statistics.
specifics. And there are
Statistics
I'll
are
give you another
reality.
statistic. Let me just give you one more
To choose.
statistic. Most wealth is created in generation 1 and it's gone by generation 4. But there's a great saying, clogs to clogs in 3 generations. First generation builds it, second generation maintains it, third generation loses it. Go back over that. Most people build it, then lose it, and it just goes round in a cycle.
You're saying Donald Trump's going to lose all his money?
I mean, he's bankrupted himself a lot,
Yeah,
he's still rich.
wouldn't be the first time.
Time's up, everybody. Thank you all for your contributions. It is now time for us to vote.
The influence of billionaires is bound to get worse insofar as we don't address income inequality. And that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I think during times of political emergency, we should look at who has the most power and who facilitates decision making. And that should always be in the hands of a government. People who are against autocracies should also be against billionaires. I respect James. I think that obviously he's worked hard. I think he's quite funny and he brings a lot of good humour to the conversation.
We have a final 15 minutes to try and reach a unanimous decision. And to pick up where we left off, Tilly, I was going to ask you for an example of Elon Musk posting something misogynistic on X.
I think there's maybe two components to this. The first one is, and this is not, I will answer the second, like the main claim that you're trying to push, right? Which
No,
is
I'm
that I should
asking
give an
for an
example.
example.
But before I do
Evidence.
that, I'll say that I actually don't need to give an example to prove the point, which is that someone who has such a controlling interest in a social media company and also their own agenda, which is obviously right-wing to some capacity, again, whether you agree with that or not necessarily relevant, I don't think that that's a good thing because he controls the way in which we operate the algorithms. So even if he never says anything misogynistic, there is a proven increase in misogynistic language on the app. So I think there's that. Secondly, which is to address the example, Elon Musk is a proponent of a few things, mainly like this great replacement theory to do with white nationalism. White nationalism is an inherently misogynistic movement because of the fact that women are upheld as pedestals, white women specifically, upheld as pedestals that represent a nation. And women who represent a nation should have certain requirements. And he cares very much about women who make babies. And if women don't make babies, their value decreases. And he's often said things to this nature.
From my point of view, people will vote with their feet and not go to there. And that's the ultimate.
Who do you mean? Like, what stakeholder?
Well, if people think, people go, well, I don't like what's going on X or whatever the bloody thing's called now, they just go, well,
and they
just
go to
won't
Meta.
Yeah.
And who owns Meta? Zuckerberg, who's just told people that the workplace is too effeminate. And he's just rolled back a bunch of regulations on Instagram.
Well, don't go on Meta then.
So have no social media, don't participate in society because billionaires have too much influence on your life.
Whoa. Social media, I use social media from a work point of view for marketing and stuff like that. Oh, I just can't be bothered with all the noise of that stuff. Just ignore it, move on.
All right,
Read a newspaper.
Don't take the train.
You know,
don't go on a bus. If billionaires do all this stuff, if billionaires like
Tilly,
central to the infrastructure.
Sweetheart, you're going from here to here, you know. That's
and Mark Zuckerberg do not run transport for London.
Yeah.
That's not what
I
I said. What I said.
No, but you're alluding to buses and trains, so it's a fair analogy for me to make.
What I'm
what
saying
about
is
media?
your own metric dictates that billionaires have so much influence and that this is a good thing. If this is true, that means that I can't escape the influence of billionaires.
No,
now we're
I
arguing
just
whether it's
believe-
good or bad. I'm saying it's bad, you're saying it's good.
Not all billionaires are walking around doing all that kind of stuff. You know, like they're not there like Elon Musk. They're flying beneath the radar and just getting on with their lives. But should they be
I've got
told
a
they
great-
can't earn a certain amount of money just because of what some other individuals who happen to also be billionaires might do? That doesn't seem fair.
There's a great
does
little
it?
quote here. If you don't like where you're at, move, you're not a tree.
James, I mean,
Obama said, I think in one of his statements, he said that inequality is the defining issue of our time. And I think trying to get back to the point of should billionaires exist, I'm sure there are some nice billionaires and some nasty billionaires.
Yeah.
It's whether it is a detriment to society as a whole. And I think that it is. I think that when you give such wealth to certain individuals, it ultimately doesn't trickle down. They often, if a government, for instance,
One of the things you said there, giving such wealth to such individuals, no one's giving it to them. They do stuff to
I
get
think they
it.
have worked hard, no doubt. I've family members who are quite wealthy, and we have this discussion around the table. If, for instance, government came along and said, okay, we're going to do a tax, a billionaire can go, well, I don't like London or British tax. I'm going to move myself and go to Europe or somewhere else. And therefore, they influence tax decisions, which affect the poorest people. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a problem.
What affects the poorest people is governments do not know how to get value for money out of taxpayers' money.
I think there are governmental issues, but
absolutely horrifically stupid at managing the cash they pick up.
And you're
right
better.
to point out that government
Your argument is not you necessarily.
Frankly, yes,
but
I think
billionaires
they are.
better.
I think they are better at spending money than government.
So if you guys think billionaires shouldn't exist, what do you think should happen to their money then? Who would control their wealth? So a lot of billionaires just exist because entrepreneurs like James work really, really hard. They probably didn't aim to become a billionaire, but it came to them. So if you guys think billionaires shouldn't exist, what would happen
Really
to their
interesting.
money?
I just want to say something there. It's not. There's lots of people work hard. Chris works hard. James works hard. Tilly's works hard. You know, I think all of us work hard. We, all put in the hours. It is the way they think that sets them apart, and you
so do you
cannot
think
change
Elon
that.
Musk thinks 100,000 times better than someone who has £5 million?
I'm not saying better. They think differently.
I think
100,000 times
Mara
more
has a good
differently?
question.
Yeah, I do.
She's got a good question, which
This
is
is a
what
really good
should
point.
happen with billionaires' money. I think it
Who's
is.
going to control the flow of money?
Well, maybe if we think about it in a different way, I mean, maybe what if rather than sort of going, all right, we're going to take your wealth above this certain amount, what if we sort of tied sort of the maximum that a CEO can earn with how much his lowest paid worker gets? So say it's like 10 times as much. Then we end up, we have greater wealth redistribution. We have more wealth in sort of the lower echelons of society. That's actually good for business because, having cash-strapped population is not actually good for business. At the moment, what's happening is we don't have trickle-down economics. We have Hoover-up economics, right? The system is currently designed to transfer wealth from those that don't have it to those that do.
But they're already paying more tax than anybody else.
Actually, no, they're not. Proportionally, they're not.
That's not true.
But the answer to James's question is you get rewarded in society for your effectiveness.
But you still
That's how it
would get
happens.
rewarded.
But they're not more
It's just-
value. An individual is still valuable, whether they.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about being everyone's valuable.
Yes.
People get rewarded for their effectiveness. Why is it unfair, therefore, that a brain surgeon earns 4 times more than a general practicing doctor? Why is that? Because they've upskilled themselves more.
Yeah.
They're more rare.
I think it's a good argument, and I think you're right. I think there's no perfect system of capitalism. I think the capitalism is probably maybe the best of the systems that we have because it does mean if you put effort in, you get reward. The question is that always true? And if we ever increasing wealth gap, I'm not sure it is. I think going back to James's point about should a CEO get 10 times what his worker get? I think Plato said, to quote Plato, he said the wealthiest should only have 4 times more than the poorest. And Socrates, again, great thinkers, said
player.
Good, yeah, and great footballer. But he also said, we need to be careful that we don't have these extreme gaps. And Thomas Aquinas is a great theologian, kind of, again, similar thing. And obviously, priest, Jesus was like the love of money can be the root of much evil. And we just have to, I think it's good to be cautious, it's good to question, and it's good to be like, is that actually too much influence, power, wealth for one person when we have such poor and valuable people over here? And I think when you get to billions, which is the question, I think yes.
Tilly, I heard you agreeing with James when he was suggesting a cap, for example. What would the capitalism cap on a CEO's salary be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a few things that create political emergency, and one of them is income inequality. I think that Debbie made a really astute point, which is that 1 billion is potentially some kind of arbitrary cap that we make to symbolise something greater, which is we should tax people who earn a lot of compounding interest on their wealth. We should redistribute that in an equitable way. I don't think that there's an answer which is here's a cap. Gary Stevenson makes the point that we should tax people on £10 million or more, take a 1% wealth tax, something like that. I think that sounds like a good idea. I think we should just make sensible economic decisions that benefit most people in society. And I think maybe I would turn to James and I would ask you, who do you think is more valuable? Genuine good faith question. The managing director of the Bank of America or a GP in England? And how do you actually measure value in that way? Is it not a bit of a silly thing to say, well, money is directly proportional to some kind of efficiency or value, when in actual fact we know that, what about people who inherit billions from divorce? There are so many metrics that we haven't considered.
There's about 4 questions there. Ask me,
Yeah, sure.
which was the people that get money from divorce. I would hate to win the National Lottery or be given any form of money. Really, when I come across super successful people, they are not driven by money, they are driven by creation. That is what drives them. They like creating things, bringing teams together, getting stuff done, dealing with a big mission that they feel that government can't solve.
Creating jobs.
Creating jobs, building effective teams. I love the people I work with. I just really, my team are just amazing. I want to reward them, I want to look after them. And that is everything that we have that we enjoy, whether it's our smartphones, our ability to get medicine, to travel around the world cheaply than ever before, James, you might not like that, sorry, but some of the things that we can do now, I think we are better than we was 100 years ago. We are better than we was 50 years ago. And if you look at, I was watching Downton Abbey the other night. I mean, we have moved on a long way from that, from 1920.
You should have been working instead of watching that.
I bloody love it. I love Downton Abbey.
I'm not an economist, but I'm not sure, because there's a difference between, I think, wealth and like standard of living and things like that. So when we say we're improving in society and we're a lot wealthier and wealth is being better displaced among people, I'm not a economist. I don't think that is as true as we might believe. I think there is ever increasing poverty. And I think the standard of living has gone down for a lot of people.
In the UK or worldwide?
I think worldwide. I think with the UK, what we're seeing is the kind of living wage and also just the standard of living, and at the moment in the UK is problematic, and the poorest of the poor are trapped in cycles of not being able to get out of debt.
But we need to educate them better.
I think
that's how you upskill yourself. You can have more. I mean,
I think you're proposing what I think is the best of society, and I think that's good and admirable. I think defining the reality of the society is a different thing.
Chris, we need to reform the education system to allow people to upskill themselves. We're still.
So do you think anyone can be
free
rich?
Tuition for you?
Yeah,
Does that mean everyone can be rich?
No. I think anyone can have more if they want more. Okay. If they don't get into the blame game. I mean, I started out balloon modelling. That's really, I used to sell balloons, do balloon modelling, do some magic tricks.
I bet you were great at it.
Yeah, and I left home when I was very, very young. My mum passed away, literally had to get going. I had to sink or swim, and lots of people have those moments in life, do I sink or do I swim? There are people that think differently that decide to swim, and we need to help those people that are sinking to say, how can we help you swim? And that's the better question.
Okay, everybody, it's time to vote again, please.
We failed. We didn't all agree.
Members of the jury, you were asked, should billionaires exist? You weren't able to reach a unanimous decision, but the majority voted yes.
It's really interesting. I was listening to Tilly. She's obviously really involved in politics, really involved in the zeitgeist of the way people think and feel. Whereas entrepreneurs and business owners are quite stoic. Like they think, well, I will only worry about the things that I personally can change and build themselves up and then start to improve the world.
You are fighting for your country. If your country loses that war.
A conscripted military is completely different in nature to a voluntary military.
Needs must.
Just think about what you're saying.
I was going to say, if someone knocked on my door and told me that I'm going to war tomorrow, I'd just be like, shoot me now. Do you know what I mean?
There's a
if
lack
our
of
generation
incentive.
just said they didn't want to go.
No, but there's a lack
We'd be
of
German,
incentive.
we're speaking German.